Have you ever felt a sudden surge of motivation only to watch it fizzle out days, or even hours later? You start with fire, ideas, and ambition, but somehow nothing gets done. Why does this happen? The answer is simple yet harsh: motivation alone can't carry you forward. Without discipline, the consistent, daily actions that turn intent into results, motivation is just fleeting energy, easily blown away by distractions and obstacles. Long before his On the Origin of Species was published in 1859, Darwin spent decades observing, recording, and analyzing data from his travels and experiments. He didn't rely on occasional bursts of inspiration. Instead, he disciplined himself to meticulously document every detail day after day. It was this unwavering commitment and structured effort that allowed him to transform natural history, proving that motivation without discipline achieves very little. When we talk about success, most people think of motivation. They imagine a surge of energy, a sudden burst of inspiration that carries them effortlessly toward their goals. And yes, motivation is real. It is the spark, the flash of excitement that lights the fire inside us. But here is the truth that so many overlook: a spark alone cannot carry a log up a hill. A spark may ignite, may burn brightly for a moment, but it will fade if there is no steady fuel behind it. Motivation is a beginning, not a journey. It is fleeting, emotional, and often unpredictable. One day you feel it, the next day it's gone, and without something more, without something reliable, all your grand intentions vanish into nothingness. Discipline, on the other hand, is not flashy. It does not arrive with a rush of adrenaline or a sudden epiphany. Discipline is quiet, steady, and relentless. It is the engine that keeps the fire burning long after the initial spark of motivation has dimmed. Discipline is what gets you out of bed at 5 a.m. when the world is still asleep, when your energy is low, when your motivation has deserted you. It is what pushes you to study, to practice, to act day after day, even when inspiration feels like a stranger. Discipline is not dependent on feelings. It is a choice, a habit, a commitment to action, regardless of circumstance. Consider the great achievers of history. They did not succeed because they were always motivated. Abraham Lincoln, for example, faced repeated failures, heartbreaks, and rejection, yet he persisted. Thomas Edison conducted thousands of experiments that failed before discovering the light bulb. Their secret was not temporary excitement. It was disciplined action, day after day, fueled by purpose. Motivation may have lit the initial spark, but it was discipline, the engine, that carried them steadily forward. And this is the lesson for all of us. If you want to transform ideas into reality, dreams into achievement, you must understand that motivation alone is nothing. You must pair it with discipline, and in that pairing, you will find the unstoppable force that leads to lasting success. Many people live under the illusion that motivation alone is enough to carry them through life. They believe that a sudden rush of enthusiasm or a burst of inspiration will keep them on track day after day until their goals are reached. And yet, time and time again, we see the patterns. Motivation comes, burns brightly for a moment, and then fades. One day you feel unstoppable, energized, ready to conquer the world. The next day, that same energy evaporates, leaving you feeling stuck, unproductive, and frustrated. This is not because you lack potential or desire. It is because motivation is inherently limited. It is emotional, fleeting, and dependent on external circumstances. It cannot be relied upon as the engine of long-term achievement. Recognizing this truth is critical. Too often, people blame themselves for lack of progress, thinking they are lazy or uncommitted, when the real problem is expecting motivation to do what it was never meant to do. Motivation is the spark, yes, but without a structured plan, without habits and discipline, it is powerless. The moment you understand that motivation is temporary, you free yourself from the dangerous trap of waiting for it to arrive. You begin to see that real success is built not on how inspired you feel on any given morning, but on what you consistently do, whether inspired or not. Motivation may open the door, but discipline walks you through it. This is why the first step in becoming truly effective is honesty with yourself. Ask yourself, how often has a motivated day produced real results? How often has excitement alone moved you closer to your dreams? The answers are sobering but invaluable. Once you acknowledge the limits of motivation, you can stop relying on it as a crutch and start building systems that work independently of fleeting feelings. You begin to replace wishful thinking with consistent action, relying not on how you feel but on what you do. This shift, from emotional dependence to disciplined action, is the difference between those who dream and those who achieve. Motivation is fleeting, discipline endures. Understanding this is not discouraging, it is liberating. It allows you to plan to act and to move forward every day, regardless of whether you feel inspired. And in that daily, deliberate movement lies the true path to success. Motivation, while powerful, is directionless if it is not guided by a clear purpose. Think of it like a ship with a roaring engine but no rudder. Without goals, motivation flares up and dies down without ever taking you anywhere meaningful. This is why defining clear goals is not just important, it is essential. A goal transforms raw energy into focused action. It gives your daily efforts a target, a destination toward which every thought, every decision, and every effort can be directed. When you know exactly what you are aiming for, motivation finds a path to follow, and discipline finds a reason to keep moving forward. Clear goals act as both compass and map. They prevent you from wandering aimlessly in the realm of ideas and enthusiasm. For instance, someone may wake up inspired to get healthy, but without defining what that actually means, losing 10 pounds, running a mile in 8 minutes, or eating balanced meals. They will likely drift from one attempt to the next, constantly fueled by fleeting excitement but achieving little. A clearly defined goal focuses attention and energy, turning abstract motivation into deliberate steps. It answers the question, where am I going? Without that answer, motivation alone will carry you in circles, leaving you frustrated and exhausted. Setting goals is also a psychological tool that strengthens both motivation and discipline. When your goals are specific, measurable, and time-bound, you create checkpoints that allow you to see progress. Each small step forward reinforces your commitment, turning fleeting enthusiasm into lasting momentum. Discipline becomes easier because the path is visible. You are no longer acting blindly. And even when motivation wanes, the clarity of your goal keeps you moving. You wake up, you act, you progress, not because you feel like it, but because your goal demands it. Every action becomes purposeful, every choice intentional, and every setback a lesson. In this way, goals are the bridge between the spark of motivation and the engine of discipline, transforming potential energy into actual results day after day, step by step, until your vision becomes reality. Once you have defined clear goals, the next step is to translate them into daily action. Motivation alone may get you started, and goals may show you where to go, but without habits, progress will always be inconsistent. Habits are the invisible architecture of achievement. They are the repeated behaviors that, over time, compound into results far greater than any single act of inspiration could produce. Discipline is strengthened and sustained when it is woven into your daily routines, when the work becomes automatic, and when actions align consistently with your goals day after day. Consider the power of small, deliberate actions. You do not need to achieve monumental feats each day. You need to take consistent steps that move you forward. A writer may commit to writing 500 words every morning. A musician may practice scales for 30 minutes each evening. A student may study for an hour every night. Over time, these seemingly small actions accumulate into mastery, and the results are nothing short of extraordinary. Habits remove reliance on fluctuating motivation because they create structure. When a task becomes habitual, you no longer ask, "Do I feel like doing this today?" You simply do it because it is part of your identity and your routine. Discipline, in this sense, is habit made tangible. Habits also guard against the unpredictable nature of life. Motivation may disappear when fatigue sets in or when challenges arise, but well-established habits keep you moving forward regardless of circumstance. They act as the bridge between aspiration and achievement, ensuring that your goals are not merely ideas but living, unfolding realities. The greatest achievers in history, from inventors to leaders, did not rely on occasional inspiration. They relied on the daily grind, the small repeated actions, and the routines that reinforced their vision. They understood that success is not the result of rare, magnificent efforts, but of ordinary acts performed consistently over time. By building daily habits that reinforce your goals, you harness the power of both motivation and discipline, creating unstoppable momentum that carries you steadily toward your dreams. In this way, the spark of motivation is kept alive, fanned by the steady, unyielding force of disciplined habit. Many people make the mistake of thinking that a plan alone is enough to achieve success. They write lists, set deadlines, and map out intentions, believing that these actions guarantee results. Yet time and again, plans without systems fail. A plan tells you what to do. A system ensures that you actually do it. Systems are the structures, routines, and processes that make disciplined action automatic. They take the pressure off motivation and remove the uncertainty of daily decisions. When you operate within a well-designed system, progress becomes inevitable because your environment, your schedule, and your habits all work together to keep you moving forward. A system is more than just a checklist. It is a repeatable process that transforms scattered effort into consistent results. Consider a baker, for instance. The recipe is the plan, the discipline. Measured routine of mixing, kneading, baking, and checking temperatures is the system. One without the other produces inconsistency, frustration, and wasted energy in your life. A system might mean blocking specific hours for focused work, creating workflows for recurring tasks, or designing accountability structures that ensure you follow through on commitments. Systems reduce reliance on willpower alone. They convert actions into habits and habits into results. They are the engine that takes the spark of motivation and channels it in a productive, reliable direction. Perhaps the most overlooked benefit of systems is that they create resilience. Life is unpredictable. Distractions, setbacks, and challenges are inevitable. Motivation may falter, energy may dip, and circumstances may change, but a solid system continues to operate regardless. When your actions are embedded in a system, success does not depend on fleeting emotions or temporary enthusiasm. It depends on structure and consistency. This is why great achievers, from inventors to leaders, rarely rely solely on motivation or inspiration. They design systems that support their goals, making disciplined action automatic and failure much less likely. By creating systems rather than relying on plans alone, you take control of your results, remove the chaos of decision fatigue, and ensure that every day, no matter how you feel, you are steadily moving toward your goals. In essence, systems are the bridge between the dream of success and the reality of achievement. They turn intention into action, and action into lasting results. No journey toward success is ever without obstacles. Resistance, whether in the form of distractions, setbacks, criticism, or fatigue, is an inevitable part of life. Most people see resistance as a signal to stop, a reason to wait for the right moment, or an excuse to abandon their goals. But the truth is quite different. Resistance is not your enemy. It is the ultimate test of discipline. Motivation may help you start when everything is smooth and easy, but it is your discipline that carries you forward when the path becomes steep, when challenges appear, and when every fiber of your being wants to quit. Think about the lives of history's great achievers. Abraham Lincoln faced defeat after defeat before becoming president. Thomas Edison endured thousands of failed experiments before perfecting the light bulb. What set them apart was not constant motivation. It was the ability to persist despite resistance. They understood that obstacles are not signs to give up. They are opportunities to prove your commitment, to strengthen your character, and to demonstrate the power of disciplined action. Resistance is the measuring stick for your determination, and every challenge you overcome builds the momentum necessary to reach your goals. The stronger the opposition, the more your discipline is forged like steel under fire. Embracing resistance requires a mindset shift. Instead of avoiding discomfort, setbacks, or difficulty, you must welcome them as a natural part of the journey. When you face resistance and continue to act anyway, you train yourself to rely less on fleeting emotions and more on structured, purposeful action. Every time you push through when motivation has disappeared, you reinforce the habits and systems that make long-term success possible. Resistance, therefore, is not a wall, it is a stepping stone. The ability to persist in the face of resistance separates those who achieve their dreams from those who merely wish for them. By seeing resistance as a test of your discipline rather than a threat to your motivation, you transform challenges into fuel, frustration into focus, and obstacles into milestones on the path to achievement. In this way, every trial becomes an opportunity to grow stronger, wiser, and more unstoppable. Discipline without feedback is like a ship sailing without a compass. You may be moving, but you cannot be certain you are headed in the right direction. This is why tracking progress is essential. If you want your motivation to be effective and your discipline to yield real results, you must measure, observe, and evaluate your actions regularly. Without this, you risk pouring energy into efforts that are misaligned with your goals, wasting time and potentially losing momentum. By monitoring your progress, you gain clarity, insight, and the ability to make informed adjustments, turning your disciplined actions into a purposeful, results-driven journey. Tracking progress is more than simply checking off tasks. It is a conscious, reflective process. It involves examining what worked, what didn't, and why. Each setback becomes a lesson, each small win a confirmation that you are on the right path. This process is both humbling and empowering. It humbles you by showing that effort alone does not guarantee success, and it empowers you by proving that you can influence outcomes through deliberate, methodical action. Measurement transforms abstract goals into tangible milestones. It allows you to see how far you have come, reinforcing your commitment and fueling the disciplined behavior necessary to continue. Without tracking, motivation may feel like motion without direction, momentum without purpose. Adjusting methodically is the second part of this process. It is not enough to simply track your progress. You must use the information wisely. If a strategy is ineffective, refine it. If a habit is not producing results, tweak it. Discipline is not rigid, it is adaptive. The most successful individuals are not those who blindly follow routines, but those who adjust intelligently based on feedback. Thomas Edison, for example, didn't abandon his experiments when they failed. He observed, recorded, and adapted, turning failures into data that eventually led to invention. Similarly, in your own life, each measured step gives you the insight to act more effectively tomorrow than you did today. By combining consistent tracking with thoughtful adjustment, you create a dynamic cycle. Disciplined action produces results, results produce data, data informs action, and action, when refined, accelerates success. This is the secret to turning motivation into lasting achievement. Discipline, by its very nature, requires effort and consistency. It demands that you act even when motivation fades, when energy is low, and when distractions beckon. But discipline alone, without reinforcement, can sometimes feel cold, mechanical, or exhausting. This is where rewards and reflection play a crucial role. By consciously acknowledging progress and celebrating milestones, you create a feedback loop that strengthens your commitment. Every achievement, no matter how small, becomes proof that your disciplined actions are effective. Rewarding yourself is not indulgence. It is a strategic tool that reinforces the behavior that leads to long-term success. Reflection, on the other hand, allows you to see the bigger picture. It provides perspective, turning routine effort into meaningful progress. By pausing to consider what you have accomplished, what worked, and what needs adjustment, you gain insights that fuel smarter action. Reflection also deepens your understanding of your own motivations, your strengths, and the areas where your discipline must grow. Without reflection, you risk moving mechanically, like a machine executing steps, without awareness of the results. With reflection, each action becomes purposeful, and each milestone, no matter how small, serves as both a motivator and a teacher. The most effective achievers have long understood the power of combining reward and reflection with discipline. They do not simply work relentlessly, they measure progress, acknowledge effort, and take time to appreciate the journey. This approach transforms effort from drudgery into a fulfilling, self-reinforcing cycle. When you reward yourself for consistent action, you build positive associations with disciplined behavior, making it easier to continue. When you reflect on your progress, you gain wisdom and clarity that ensures your next steps are smarter, sharper, and more aligned with your ultimate goals. Together, rewards and reflection provide both fuel and direction for your disciplined journey, turning daily effort into measurable results and reinforcing the habits that make success inevitable. In this way, discipline is not punishment. It becomes a source of empowerment, insight, and motivation that drives you steadily toward achievement. Failure is not the opposite of success, it is an essential part of the journey toward it. Yet so many people are defeated by failure, allowing it to halt their progress, diminish their confidence, and drain their motivation. The truth is that failures are not permanent unless you allow them to be. They are feedback, lessons written in real-life experience, designed to guide you toward better decisions and wiser action. Discipline ensures that even when motivation fades and setbacks occur, you continue moving forward, learning from every misstep without losing momentum. Consider the lives of those who achieved greatness. Thomas Edison is often quoted as saying he did not fail 10,000 times, but rather discovered 10,000 ways that did not work. Abraham Lincoln lost multiple elections, faced personal tragedies, and endured countless disappointments, yet each failure became a stepping stone toward his ultimate success. They did not allow temporary defeats to derail their long-term vision. Instead, they examined what went wrong, extracted the lessons, and applied them systematically. Discipline in this context acts as the stabilizing force, enabling you to turn failure into an opportunity for growth rather than a reason to quit. Motivation alone could not have carried them past repeated setbacks. It was their unwavering commitment to act, learn, and improve that forged lasting achievement. Learning from failure also requires a mindset shift. Instead of viewing mistakes as evidence of inadequacy, you must see them as information, as guides that illuminate the path to mastery. This perspective keeps your momentum alive because even setbacks are productive. They refine your strategy, sharpen your skills, and deepen your understanding of the journey. When you combine this approach with discipline, you ensure that no failure is wasted, no lesson ignored, and no opportunity missed. Each challenge becomes a chance to strengthen your habits, your systems, and your resolve. Over time, this practice compounds, producing resilience, wisdom, and results that would be impossible without disciplined perseverance. In this way, failures are not obstacles. They are the raw material from which the structure of success is built, allowing you to keep moving forward with confidence, clarity, and unstoppable momentum. The ultimate evolution of discipline is when it stops being something you do and becomes who you are. Many people treat discipline as a temporary effort, a tool to be used when motivation is high, a practice to be followed until the excitement fades. But true achievement requires something deeper. Discipline must become part of your identity, ingrained in the very way you think, act, and make decisions. When discipline is who you are, actions no longer depend on fleeting emotions or external circumstances. They flow naturally from your character. Motivation becomes the spark that lights an already steady fire, but it is the disciplined identity that keeps that fire burning day after day, month after month, year after year. Building this identity begins with repetition and consistency. Every time you choose action over comfort, effort over ease, and persistence over surrender, you reinforce who you are becoming. Gradually, disciplined behavior shifts from being a conscious effort to an automatic part of your life. The small daily choices, waking early to work on a goal, prioritizing long-term gains over short-term pleasures, completing tasks even when you don't feel like it, these are the building blocks of a disciplined identity. Over time, these choices shape not only your results but your self-concept. You no longer ask, "Am I motivated enough today?" Because being disciplined is no longer optional. It is simply who you are. This transformation has profound effects on every aspect of life. When discipline becomes your identity, challenges no longer intimidate you, setbacks no longer derail you, and motivation becomes supplementary rather than essential. You act because it is part of your nature to act, and you persist because it is part of your nature to persist. Think of the great achievers in history. They did not rely on occasional inspiration. They relied on disciplined character, shaped by repeated decisions and reinforced through action. By internalizing discipline as an identity, you ensure that your progress is unstoppable, your goals are achievable, and your potential is fully realized. Motivation may ignite the spark, but identity is the eternal flame, guiding you steadily toward success, no matter the circumstances. In this way, discipline ceases to be a practice you must struggle to maintain. It becomes the essence of who you are, the invisible engine driving every choice, every action, and every achievement. And so, as we bring this journey to a close, let us remember the truth that underlies every success story. Motivation is the spark, but discipline is the engine. Motivation alone may light the fire for a moment, but it is discipline, the steady, consistent, intentional action, that carries us forward when inspiration fades. The greatest achievements in history were not built on fleeting excitement, but on habits, systems, and an unwavering commitment to act day after day, regardless of circumstance. You have seen how defining clear goals, building habits, creating systems, embracing resistance, learning from failures, and reinforcing progress with reflection all work together to transform potential into achievement. You have discovered that discipline is not merely a practice, but an identity. It is who you become when consistent action outweighs temporary feelings. The path to success is rarely glamorous, but it is simple: show up, do the work, learn, adjust, and persist. Each step, no matter how small, compounds into momentum that can carry you past obstacles, setbacks, and self-doubt. So, as you leave this place today, carry this lesson with you. Do not wait for motivation to appear. Do not rely on fleeting feelings of inspiration. Instead, build your life around discipline. Let it shape your habits, guide your choices, and define your character. When you do, you will find that motivation becomes a helpful ally rather than a fragile crutch, and your dreams, no matter how audacious, become not just possible, but inevitable. Success, after all, is not a matter of luck or fleeting desire. It is the result of disciplined action, day after day, until what was once a goal becomes your reality.